All right, it's 6 p.m. We'll get the meeting to order. Start with the flag salute and invocation by Diane.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, thank you today for this day that you've given us. Thank you for the rain that you gave us. Lord, just help this meeting tonight, help it to go smoothly, and help wise decisions to be made. Be with the commissioners. Thank you for the time that they give for the betterment of this community. Just help us to live for you and all that we say and do. In your name I pray, amen.
Amen.
It's good to have you back, Diane.
All right, under approval of the agenda, I need to add under new business item, line item L, need to add disposal of city property. Bob, do I have to make a motion to add? Okay, and I also need to add under appearances, Rob Harrington.
On new business on the second page.
All right, consent agenda. Any questions on that? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Sure. Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Kevin Allen,
Abstain?
Pete Allen. No. Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Lindsay Watts.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right, engineering firm update.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Really, the main update we'll talk about later in the meeting with the bids. But I do have the one proposal for the stormwater projects. I tried to get them all, but I didn't have time to finish them all. So I've got one I'll pass around, and it is the proposal for the 17th and Eddy area, which also includes the two inlets at 15th and National. So you'll just take that for review, and we can talk about it at the next meeting.
Okay.
And then with all the, basically with all the bids and the demo project, we have no additional work on the Old Faithful manhole, and any other ongoing project was basically kind of on hold the last couple of weeks. So that's about it for the update.
Do we know on the other ones? I know the guys reached out to us a couple of times on Wall Street. For the
Wall
stormwater.
in Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess the question is, if I get these together, in between commission meetings, can I just send it to the city manager and he can distribute?
Oh, yeah.
Is that how you want to do that?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. So we'll trickle those in between now and the next meeting. And then if there's ones that you guys want to discuss or approve, they can get it on the next commission agenda. We'll be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions?
No, I don't think so. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comments? No one? All right. Interim city manager update. Mark, do you have anything?
Good afternoon, everyone. I have one update that the permit has been applied for the trees on Highway 69 at 12th Street. So as soon as we get that permit in, action will be taken. That concludes my update.
Busy week.
All right, old business resolution 21-2021 for the sale of Lake Fort Scott property proceeds.
Can have a conversation about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know where to start, other than I think it's way too restrictive for what I expected us to do. Bob, do you need to explain that? I mean, basically, I ask you, the way it's written, this limits the use of the proceeds other than for all of it to go to the lake.
That is correct. That's the way it was drafted. Now, that does
Okay.
not reflect what
So-
you're gonna do, doesn't reflect what you might wanna do. It's just the way it was drafted.
You mean
And
what?
you can offer amendments, changes, you don't have to pass it.
Okay.
There's no inference
Well-
in here that that's what you ought to do.
Well, here are my concerns. I'm just, we're having the conversation, the ongoing conversation that we have discussed, the multiple needs for that proceeds. Again, I will reinforce, I completely agree with improving what we have and making it the best it can be. I think then the question gets to be, though, the way this is written, I don't know if it's written about improvements to Lake Fort Scott and maintain improvements. Does that? But I think that implies some of the other ideas of expansion of services at the lake. And then that gets into having to fund those expansions and the continued upkeep and the continued maintenance of them. And as we get further into the meeting, I want people to recognize how many needs we have within the community. We're going to talk about bids on the streets, which some of them are torn up and need to be repaired already. They're probably underfunded, or it's going to be difficult to find the funding for them. We really don't have any funds for economic development, and although that may or may not be done in-house ongoing, there's still going to be needs within the city itself for that type of development. Off the top of my head, I think about the Eagle block liability. I'm not sure we know where we are with that in terms of legal expenses and the issues that may arise from that. So my point is, I hate to pass a resolution that forces us to put all of our eggs in one basket, where this is really funds that we may need to cover other expenses for people within the community. I guess if I had, I want to hear what everybody else has to say. Josh, I'm not trying to take over your meeting. But I would suggest that Bob listen to our conversation again, maybe table this and see if there's a resolution that doesn't tie our hands quite as drastically as this one does for allowing the commission to use the funds in ways. And I don't know, the commission may want to come up with a percentage amount, say, I don't know, 3% can be used at the lake and 97% at the town.
The golf course?
And, I forgot about that, 97% at the golf course. Yeah, I'm just pulling, I don't know the best way to do this other than, I don't think if we're talking about $500,000 to $900,000 of income to the city, to say that should all be earmarked for use at the lake, I think it's just too handicapping to the commission for what it may really, for other needs it may have that are urgent. So that's my concern about this resolution.
Here's my spiel on that. And it's a good point. When we expand our services, we also have to take into consideration we're going to have to maintain those services. So if we put extra water lines in, sewer lines for camping, shelter houses, we have to maintain those.
Right.
And we've been doing that for years. Even when we don't do it, we maintain things. I'll give you an example. Walking trails. We built walking trails, and the city of Fort Scott mows those walking trails, and we take care of those walking trails very well. And we continue to do that on anything and everything that we build additionally. The only difference is, and again, this is my opinion, when you build these services, these are things that are going to be able to be rented. We've all seen great examples on lakes such as Farlington Lake. Now, again, that's a state lake, so they're playing with bigger pocketbook. But there are people that are willing to pay to play. They will rent those shelter houses. They will rent them for parties. They'll rent camping spots if they're decent camping spots. They will use the facilities that are there, and we will make money back on them. We have plenty of sewer capability out there. It sounds like I'm just going to throw a number out there. Let's say $500,000 is what we ended up with in this little kitty to start with. That's not going to go a long ways when you start making improvements out there. And you're right. We don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. And I don't think we do have all of our eggs in one basket. I think we have a lot of eggs that go all over the different entities in the city of Fort Scott already. The problem is that when we do this and we put it in a different fund and we put it in a general fund list, so to speak, we all have seen in the past what happens once it gets in a different fund. And if you put an and or if then different verbiage in that, it somehow finds its way. Pete's been talking about it since we came on here about the 1983 and the 1987, and they moved the wording around to where we could do different things with it. And we're not looking to sell the whole lake, but we're looking to sell a few lots right now. This is something that's been sitting there for 60 years, somewhere in that neighborhood, probably longer, that we haven't been interested in moving up to this point. And because of conversation now, we're going to move them. We're going to do a little testing and see what happens. And that money needs to stay, in my opinion, at that lake to fix up the citizens area, not all city. Someone said, we don't want to see city money, city property sold that gets spent in the county because the lake's in the county. Well, this property we're talking about fixing up and putting every penny in is city-owned property at Fort Scott Lake. So I want everybody to be very clear on that. And I think that we can make that place, it's like if you build it, they will come. This is one of the treasures we have in Fort Scott, and that's the lake. And I know some of us go there more than others, but I'm telling you right now, if you invest in that lake, it's going to come back to you. It's going to happen. So I still believe I'm not wanting to barter. I mean, we've got money going all over the place, and I think these lots can go to the lake. And then, like you said, once it's done, once there's not even a public dock on the east side of the lake. There's nothing over there for people to enjoy whatsoever. It's an abandoned area that's just you'd have to fight through timber to get down to the water. And that's a Scortino Park. And these guys have been out here. Jesse's had the guys out there working on the main beach, and it's looking really good. I went over there the other night and checked it out, and so we're getting places over there. But we're going to have money to do it, and this is where we're going to get that money.
Okay, and nobody disagrees that the lake is an asset, but there are questions that I would ask about what are the proposed improvements, because this talks about improvements. What's the cost of those? What is the expected return? And what's the impact on the people around the lake in terms of increased traffic, increased boat traffic, and disruption of their way of life? So I'm not against using this fund or putting it, even if we're going to name it this fund, to have it there and available. My concern is that we have other urgent obligations and ongoing opportunities to expand the community in the ways we've mentioned, and I just don't know where the balance is, and that's why I just have trouble seeing putting however much it's going to be. And again, I think we've talked about $800,000 or $900,000 into one kitty without the option for the commission to make a decision. I sure would invite somebody else to jump in on this conversation.
Have you had a proposal of what you would like it to see?
You mean?
Well, I know we've talked about this for about 3 meetings now, and I know you're against this. Did you think of something how you would like it?
Well, I mean, I'm sure you think about a percentage of some kind, to say, but not more than, I don't know, 50% should be used at the lake. But then you start to get into restrictions that way. I guess I'd like to see it a more open-ended fund that if there's proposals and there are uses and there is data about economic return, we use the whole lot out there, then fine. On the other hand, if we see that we need it, we should have the option to do that. And just the way this is written, it doesn't leave us with that it seems to restrict our options a great deal. And I'm just wondering if Bob could come up with language that would indicate it needs to be there, but
it's written too simple.
Not as restrictively.
It just says lake fund, am I right? So that's too simple. If we cloud it up a little bit, like we did in 1984 and 1987, then we could have our lake looking like our streets do. Because if we hadn't have clouded it up, I promise you that money would have stayed on the streets and we'd be driving on nice streets. So just tell us how you want to cloud it up.
I'm going to ask the attorney what language we can use to give us more freedom of choice as a commission. I know Pete last time was talking about, he too had some concerns about it being all put into the lake.
Well, yeah, I realize we have immediate needs at the lake, and this is immediate money at the lake. Is there a way that we could restrict this resolution to these 9 lots and just use that money for improvement and then go on to another resolution?
To the 4 lots. I'll do you even better. I'll do you even better than that. I'll say you can restrict it to the 4 lots until we bring up another discussion for another commission at another time.
If we just do that, then we're not restricting, any further future sales.
So you use the money from the initial 4 lots to the lake, and then after that,
Would be a different discussion.
Another discussion, another resolution.
I would rather do that than tie us to all the future sales are forever. Yes.
I would agree with that. I think that also it goes along with this conversation is possibly having a dialogue about how do we create, what is the economic impact of the money that we'll be putting back into the city-owned lots at the lake with the improvements that we will be doing, and what kind of revenue is that going to bring in, and what will that sustain for the future on being able to maintain maintenance, because this is a one-time influx of cash. How do we look at that? Just a second. Do we look at moving forward with possibly finding another way of a yearly type of income at the lake that would sustain maintenance for us for the long term, for the lifetime, to be able to maintain and look at continual growth for the properties that the city owns for public use?
I can tell you right now, we already have people employed to maintain Fort Scott Lake. The airport employees, am I correct in saying this? The airport employee, no, they don't mow there. Somebody from the airport's been mowing there. Okay, we're already paying. It would be what's his name, McDaniel. He's mowing and maintaining the place. Is Lake Patrol? Lake Patrol's employed by the city of Fort Scott. He would be our caretaker that would actually collect the dues and things of that nature for camping. And I think we already have services there that are going to be there for maintaining this, if that's what you're talking about. Like for camping and renting the shelter house, if we happen to have a shelter house on each side, maintaining the docks.
I guess my question is if that hasn't been happening in the past, then how are we saying that's going to move forward in the future? Am I missing something?
No, and I agree with you. A lot of lakes have for example, a dock permit fee.
Right.
I think we need to look at that. Possibly either on the water have a dock permit fee. One, it's for inspections. Most of them out there are nice, but are there some docks out there that are just deplorable? Are they all pretty nice right now?
Those are mine.
No.
I'm kidding.
But no, I think something like that would.
It would create a sustainable a supplement to being able to move forward with maintenance and upkeep. I think. I like I guess with the conversation right now, that's a conversation for maybe a different time. But I would agree that I would be able to. I find the appeal of what Pete said of these 4 initial lots and what Kevin said, the 4 initial lots being in this. I think that the wording would probably need to change on the resolution if I'm not mistaken.
Pete bid 9. I actually lowered it to 4 because that's how sure I am of this whole thing going correct. I think that we can really make some improvements and help the city out.
Well, hopefully, you'll find from the 4 there may be adequate funds to move forward, and the other won't be encumbered by the same kind of thing. So,
right.
So I'd move we table this and ask Bob to come up with a rewording.
Well, and I disagree with. I mean, I like the way it's written because there's a clause in there that says we can transfer funds as we deem necessary. I don't feel like we need to write a resolution every time we sell a piece of property out there. I feel like we overanalyze and over-involve ourselves on everything. If we come to a point where we say we don't need it, we can write a resolution canceling this resolution. Is that correct, Bob?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And also, under this resolution, as you've noticed, I put a catch-all.
Yeah, we have the,
That if there's extra money in there and you need it for streets or, God forbid, a building collapse or whatever, you could say, hey, we're gonna transfer $100,000.
and what I like about this is we don't have to fight this in the future, even future commissions. Once again, you know, we're afraid of going to the general fund, Kevin.
Right.
And so 5 years down the road, it can go to the general fund, and this stops that to a point. I mean, either way, it doesn't matter because it only takes 3 votes to move this money somewhere
Just
else.
an accounting function.
That's all it is.
It gives
Yeah.
Susan permission in your budget
Right.
to set those funds into a category. That's all it does.
Yeah.
Okay, which is what I asked you earlier, and you indicated that they'll, however, it emphasizes spending the money at the lake.
Well, yeah, that's the primary purpose, but I put a catch-all clause.
Okay.
I always try to put a catch-all clause. Maybe I didn't
What's that?
word
It's
it
a separate
clearly
paper. that's
enough.
in
That
one of
was
your
my
documents.
fault.
I read,
Right there.
that's why I asked you the question though about the emphasis
Yes.
of the resolution, so, okay.
All right. So there's a motion on the table.
Could you, Bob, could you read this? Are you Pete's motion into,
No.
Randy made a motion to
Randy made a
table.
oh, the table? Okay.
Is there a second?
Randy, how do you feel about with that, I guess, bit of information that you didn't feel like you had before?
Well, I read it and I read the catch-all phrase, but then when I talked to the attorney, he told me that actually the resolution emphasized the use of the money at the lake, and that's what bothers me.
Well, and I
Yeah.
can see how it would emphasize the spending the dollars at the lake, you know, and then the commission. But what we asked was that the commission also have the authority to be able to move those funds if they deemed it necessary, if we do need those funds. And since we're capable of doing that, the commission is, in case of an emergency, in case of those funds not being needed at that point, I think I would tend to lean with
Yeah,
John.
the
So
way I
doesn't-
read this is a fund to keep it safe from anything besides the lake unless the majority of the commission decides otherwise. That's
Well,
all it is.
I'd like to remind the commission of the catch-all phase, what it did to our street
In
fund.
83.
86.
Whatever. It was the 80s.
But the catch-all
cloudy.
fund clause took $35 million out of our street improvement programs. And so the same thing could happen here. We're talking about the very same catch-all.
I think the only
yeah.
difference is the word
It's,
here.
it's the opposite. Actually, Pete, it's the opposite because what that did was that allowed money to be transferred out, and this is actually doing the opposite of what that catch-all phrase did. Because without this catch-all phrase, or without what you want to do is put the limit to 4, that means every other land out there can be used for whatever they want, and it's not in a secure fund.
You're right. Another resolution could be made. It
Yeah.
could be made that we want to sell 4 lots and put it in the sewer department. You know, I mean, that could be done. And to me, the catch-all is a catch-all, and it's poison.
I'm going to, yeah.
Is there a,
I would make the motion that we accept.
well, there
Oh,
was
we
a
already got a motion.
one motion. So
but there was
Did it
no
die?
second, so
Yeah,
it
so-
died for a loss. Like it was
Now,
said. I would make the motion that we approve resolution 21, 2021.
second.
Pete Allen,
No.
Randy Nichols,
No,
Lindsey Watts,
Yes.
Kevin Allen,
No.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right.
So
Can
is
I-
there any direction?
I want to make a motion that for the first 4 lots that are sold at Fort Scott Lake, all funds go to the Lake Fund, Lake Capital Improvement Fund, as Bob has mentioned it. Basically, I think all you would do is take the whereas if proceeds are needed in other city purposes out of the contract. That'd be my motion. Then 100% go in there for the sale of the first 4 lots.
I'll second.
I think that's a mistake too, with that any whereas clause, in case we get, you know, if you got $400,000 or $500,000 sitting there and suddenly you have the building fall down, you don't have any options to fund it.
Are you still leaving in there, Kevin, the last phrase, I'm assuming for Bob, that at any time, three commissioners could,
No, he's saying he wants to
No, I
remove
was saying,
that.
see, what I was saying,
If I could clarify,
Please.
I don't know what I said.
however you pass it, always remember it's a resolution.
It can be changed.
It can be changed anytime that three of you get together and decide to terminate the resolution or change it or modify it in any fashion.
Exactly.
The next commission could abolish it and go with their own.
Exactly.
We can do it next.
Well,
Josh, to straighten mine.
this resolution would be abolished after the sale of the first 4 properties anyways.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
so
what I'm saying.
According to what he's.
And Josh, what I said was, I said take the last, whereas if proceeds are needed by others for city purposes, the governing body may transfer funds to any other funds deemed necessary. I wanted that taken out and just go to the Lake Capital Improvement Fund. For the first 4 sales, we're talking, that's it. And then we relook at it at that point. That was my motion.
Pete seconded your motion. Are you ready for roll call?
So at that point, Bob, clarify this for me. If we do have an emergency need, at that point, we would, if we felt the need to come back to the commission and remove this resolution and divert those funds elsewhere, and there was a majority vote, we could do that at that point.
Sure you can.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All this means basically is that I win over Randy. Basically what we're looking at.
Lindsey Watts,
Yes.
Randy Nichols,
No.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Kevin Allen,
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right, appearances, Brenda Iverson.
I will say before you get started speaking, I did have a resident today that asked if everybody could please speak into their mic as close as possible because they have a hard time hearing it at home when we don't speak in there. So, yeah.
Okay, I don't do good with mics, guys. I'll just tell you that now. Hi, my name's Brent Iverson. I'm the Boy Scout Master for Troop 114 here in Fort Scott. On the 28th of this month, we are doing a recruitment for Cub Scouts. We were going to try and do 3rd Street Park, but we have moved that to 2nd Street Park. We want to shoot BB guns and arrows. It is a resolution, or it's something in the law that we can't shoot those in town. So I'm asking you guys to come up with something so I can have BB guns and arrows in 2nd Street, which I believe is not even in city limits.
I think it is. I'm pretty sure 2nd Street Park is in the city limits. Am I right? We own it.
Well, either way, it's city property.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, that's why I'm here to ask.
Bob,
Right.
do you have any suggestions on that?
Well, it's a safety issue. I think if the chief can configure something that is safe, I don't think it's a problem.
So's the hot dog eating contest, but we did it down at the walking trail.
Travis, do you
So-
see any concern with this, or?
We've allowed them to do this before in different areas, Gun Park, I think before. I think they've done it down at Buck Run with the backstop at, well, above where the swimming pool is. I don't think that she's assured me that they're gonna have safety precautions. It's not gonna be like a, you know,
Free for all.
20 of them lining up and shooting. I think they're gonna have an adult for about every scout. So I don't think there's an issue as long as they take those safety precautions.
So I just make the recommendation, Brenda and Travis, that you work together, and we'll use Travis's best judgment.
It's all on Travis.
I think it's okay.
Okay.
We have the free-for-all going over on the east side. We can shoot at each other.
Was that it, Brenda?
Was that it?
So,
I'm the Cub Master, so what's the chance of the city?
Go to the microphone.
I'll be there too, because I'm the Cub Master. Yeah, big time. What's the chance of getting porta potty down there for that weekend?
Yeah, because it's a 4-hour event and we like to not have to ship people elsewhere.
Or if we can't do that, could we go through the park?
Yeah, are you guys looking for me to volunteer one? I mean, I'll do it. If the city won't pay for it, I'll go ahead and do it.
I'm hoping the city will be like, yeah, we got you. Or can we go to a different park that has a bathroom?
Travis, what parks before did you say this was done at?
You said gun bar.
I believe it's been done at Buck Run, and I believe it's been done at Gun Park.
Do you see any problems with having it at Gun Park, Brenda or Sally?
I can make it work at Gun Park. We have backdrops and everything. I just will have to shut down one of the bike paths.
Right. Well, if it's
just so it's safe.
so it's easier at Second Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have to shut anything. I just have to.
Yeah. I think that even if the city can't, I will get you.
Yeah, I'll do it if the city won't do it.
Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Rob Harrington.
Do you want to vote on that?
I was gonna say,
I
did
think
you
we
make
need
the
to vote on
motion?
it.
I did. Is that something we need to vote on?
Probably should, just to keep the record clear
Okay.
that the commission approved
Okay.
overriding the
Yeah.
statute requirement.
Oh, you want to make the motion? I'll make the motion to do it.
Second.
Kevin Allen,
Yes.
Lindsey Watts,
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right, Rob.
Good evening, everyone. By this time, you all should know who I am. I've been here a couple times. Rob Harrington, Bourbon County Ready. The reason why I'm here tonight is to bring your attention to what I feel is a very serious problem, and one that I hope we can work together to fix. Last Friday, myself and two individuals, for the purpose of purchase, went into what is McDonald Hall to look at the inside of the building. These individuals were looking to purchase the facility, and so while we were in there, we noticed a lot of damage, a lot of terrible damage to the building, and upon that, have talked with some individuals, and I just want to bring this to your attention that the building, I believe, is in so much disrepair that the first big snow we get, the roof would collapse. I'm not an engineer, but as you look at the roof, there's waves in the roof, several of them. There's a lot of water on the inside. Friday after the rain, we were able to go in there and find water puddles on the floor where the rain had come through the roof. On the back side, and with the added weight of a good January or February snow on top of that roof, I'm afraid that it could fail. So I'm just bringing that to your attention, as in because we all know what happens. We just experienced that with Eagle Block Building. This, to me, in my opinion, is much more serious, as it is a main building in your downtown area, and so I would like, I just wanted to bring this up to your attention. We are currently working in-house to work on some individuals and possibly get some things accomplished so we can get in to fix that building, or at least figure out a way to get in to fix that building, whether that be purchase or donation to the land bank or whatever that would be. But I thought I'd bring this to the Commission's attention because it is a very, very serious problem that could get more serious if we continue to allow it to deteriorate. So,
yeah, and I will say a couple weeks ago that I know Bob and Bill Downing's been working on the
Yeah.
legal issues of entering that property.
Yeah, I spoke with the fire chief, and the chief of police today. We're hoping that we'll be able to work with the landowner to kind of forego the legal issues, and maybe by foregoing or waiving some of the taxes owed on it, that maybe we can get the building donated so we can get someone else in there to purchase it, to fix it immediately or as soon as possible. So, just so everyone knows, when we entered the building on Friday, it was based on the intent to purchase the building. So it was nothing else other than that. I just happened to notice all the damage and stuff when I was in there. And with further research, I've been told that the roof is, I would say, after talking with somebody, they said anywhere from no less than $250,000 to repair that building, the roof. And take it down to the studs and everything. So we're talking a very significant amount of money, and that's the bottom, in my opinion. So again, I'm not an engineer, but I can tell when a building's falling down, and it's getting pretty close. So.
Hey, Rob, I'm sorry. Which building did you say?
The Chop House.
Main
Okay,
Street
I
Chop
heard you
House.
say Memorial Hall.
McDonald
So-
Hall.
McDonald.
No.
Okay.
No, McDonald Hall,
All right,
not
all right,
Memorial
all
Hall.
right, that's where I thought we were. And then,
No.
okay, that's not
The old
good, but
Chop
better.
House, I guess people call it the old Chop
Yeah,
House. But yeah, the McDonald Hall downtown.
All right, thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
So what are options here, Bob?
I think Bob's working behind the scenes with Bill
Yeah,
and
right.
the owners at a couple
Yeah.
legal.
So there are discussions going on.
How do I, yes, there are discussions going on. And there isn't anything that money won't fix. And you all are in the middle of your budget. And if you're serious about doing all the things that we need to do, you need to put aside some money so that the codes department, if they've got stuff that they need to recommend, we have cash. That's all I'm going to say.
It's
at
all
this
to
point.
Lake now.
Well, maybe it needs to be downtown. I don't know. I'm just saying, we're working behind the scenes with everybody that we know to work with to try to come to a resolution without forcing some kind of condemnation. Because when you condemn it, you end up tearing it down. And in the middle of the most historic block you've got, you end up with a lot.
Absolutely.
We don't have a lot. As I always tell people, if you come to an agreement, you can use scalpels. If you leave it to the court, you have sledgehammers. That's where you are here.
Well, keep us updated on that. I'm sure you'll.
As soon as I've got something to tell you, and I don't like to tell you too much in these public meetings because it fixes things, and then it becomes truly your problem.
Sure.
Well, I would, we discussed this some time back, and we all agreed that expediency was in need here. And we worked behind the scenes, and we talked and talked and talked about Eagle Block for months and years until it fell down. And I don't want to see that happen here. I'd like full force put on this, make sure this
Again,
gets done.
Yeah, again, I will say that I think we're a different crew here now. So
Well,
I think
we
that
are, but we're still, it's still sitting there in this condition.
well, and I think sometimes, and I don't always practice this, but I think sometimes the less said is the best at this point during the game. So I think we've had a great example of what can happen if we do keep putting it off. And not that we have put it off, but yeah. Next question.
New business. Consideration of supplemental bond agreement number 1, amending a certain bond agreement for the 2015 IRB for Bourbon County Assisted Living. Do we have anybody speaking on this?
Well, I think Mark was said. Would you please?
Gilmore and Bell contacted us, and because this is done through the city, they are trying to refinance, and so basically there's no obligation for the city. It's just a refinance for them.
So we just need to move to amend the original agreement. Is that what the motion is?
That's correct.
Okay, I move we amend the original agreement as recommended by Gilmore and Bell.
Second.
Kevin Allen,
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Lindsey Watts,
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes.
And that is, do they need to make 2 separate motions, Diane? Because there's 2 different documents. There's a resolution and then there's a supplemental bond agreement.
Bob, what do you think?
No, I think one will cover.
One.
Okay.
Just make your motion broad.
Thanks, Susan.
All right, consideration to pay Skitch's hauling and excavation. Any discussion, questions? Nope. I'll make the motion to, Susan, was everything good on this? All right. Yeah. I'll make the motion to pay
For the porta
for the
potties
porta potty
and the skid loader.
skid loader.
Second.
Lindsay Watts,
Yes.
Randy Nichols,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right, Kevin. All right, C, consideration of bid water treatment plant clarifier number 1, mixer drive replacement.
Shall we wait for Skitch? Okay, thank you, Skitch. The bids were submitted on August 9th on the above reference project that's been put out before you. Davis Construction Development Corporation of Springfield, Missouri is the apparent low bidder. The contractor has been contracted and indicated that they intend to enter into contract with the city of Fort Scott. It is the recommendation of the consultant here that we award the business to Davis Construction and Development Corporation in the amount of $90,355. As I understand it, this is an ongoing project. This is not something new. This is something that has been known and that
Yes.
is drastically needed and important to complete. So I would ask the commission to motion to approve the $90,355 bid.
I would make the motion to approve the, what was the company?
I'm sorry.
Davis. Okay.
Davis Structural and Development Corporation.
Davis Structural and Development Corporation.
Oh,
I'll
second.
Pete, who's
I-
your question?
I would like to ask a question. Has our city engineer checked this? Is he aware of this project? Any input from Peter?
This project was engineered through this other company, and it was prior to them even becoming our city engineers.
I understand that.
Yeah.
They are our city engineer,
Yes?
and this type of thing is in their jurisdiction, I believe.
So I'm not aware that they were ever asked. They weren't asked by me. And so,
Would you have any comment? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I do.
No, I haven't really looked at the bids, but a drive unit on clarifier is a pretty straightforward deal. It's basically it's motor area that obviously has got to be replaced where your clarifier doesn't turn. And so if my understanding is they went through and looked at it and the engineers came up with what drive needs to be replaced, what parts and so on. And so without looking at it, I don't know exactly what all involved, but the fact that it's simply a clarifier drive, I'm not too concerned with that it is indeed reasonable to proceed.
Okay, thank you.
and just for further clarification, the two bids, the low bid is $90,355. The high bid, which is by G&G Construction Company out of Carthage, Missouri, was $91,650. There was only two bidders. So we have about $1,300 difference.
And I believe Michael said he's worked with this company before that you're recommending.
My understanding, they've done work for him in the past, yes.
Right.
Any other questions?
Call the motion. Call the question, I mean.
Randy Nichols,
Yes.
Lindsay Watts.
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right. D, consideration bid Cooper Street reconstruction.
I guess we'll just start. Do you have any questions? I know a couple of these became confusing because of the issue with the plans versus the bid form. So at the end of the day, we have to go with the bid form. So what that means is on Cooper Avenue, based on the bid, the low bidder for the base bid, which is asphalt, kind of in the middle section, was Marbury Concrete for $745,973. But then considering the bid alternate, which was to replace item number 21, which was asphalt, with the pavement section of concrete, with those numbers, the low bidder became Amino Brothers Company. So the question for the commission really is, do you want to stick with the base bid or move forward with the concrete alternate? And if there's any questions about that before you decide. Oh, and the price, so the low bid for the concrete option, which is also a corrected number, is $766,318.54. So just over $20,000 difference.
I think at this point, with all of the considerations that are in front of us that we're going to be getting to, the biggest question for us probably needs to be answered by finance. If Susan.
Okay, so tonight you have over $1 million in projects that are to be considered. And based on the cash basis law, you basically cannot go into a contract without funding in place. And so what will be available for projects for this year is about $330,000. What could be considered is temporary notes. You can do some short-term financing, some things like that. But I wanted to make sure that you were aware before you started considering contracts, because the minute that you obligate yourself or you approve a bid, you have basically said we have the cash at the bank to pay for this project. It can't, even though the project would start next year, you obligated it in 2021. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that.
Was our rebate we got from the National Street before, was that just put directly in a general fund?
From National Street.
You're saying the $200,000?
No, it was in your street fund. So you get a transfer from the general, $587,000 this year. And then our total revenue coming in is so far, which includes that $200,000, is the that national project. You only get about $200,000 in state funding into your street and highway fund. Everything else comes from the general fund.
If we were to look at doing temporary notes, what would that look like?
Let's see, we're August. We'd have enough time to get them issued by the end of the year.
Would we need to go forward with the temporary notes before approving any contract,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. Yes, you would.
Do we have a timeline on being able to approve any of the projects? Or we would just have to approve them this year with the bids that we have? Is there any?
Tell me.
Yeah, 60 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I could get with our consultants, next week and.
So we could have
Get
some
a timeline,
questions,
yeah.
get timeline on temporary notes to be able to move forward with some of these projects. Even if we were looking at being able to move forward with them next year, we could approve the bids as is now.
Yes.
With temporary notes.
Yeah, we might have to table the bids and bring them back the next meeting, but that would give me time to talk to financing and put a timeline in place to make sure that we have the temporary notes issued by the end of the year. So we just have to be sure we cover it by the end of the year.
Do you have any recommendations on, I guess, at this point, you understand what we're looking at considering. We spoke briefly earlier. with the funding that we have in place right now in our street funds, we could look at approving possibly one of the projects.
For sure, you could approve the national project, which I think is much needed. I have opinions on like the alley project. I do not think we had a competitive bid there. I know there was 2 locals that actually did not have enough time to get the bids together. So, and it was really kind of thrown together at the last minute.
So,
I
what kind
agree
of
with you.
timeline should we be giving them?
Well, I think you need to give them 2 to 3 weeks to put something together. I mean, they can do it within, yeah. But this one was really thrown together, and we had 2 engineers working on it. It was really kind of a cluster, if you want to be quite honest. It needs to be rebid.
Yeah, anytime there's, one bid, it's skeptical. I mean, not that there was anything shady going on. It's just
Well,
that
and I had-
maybe we didn't.
I had 2 other people actually contact me, and when their bids didn't come in, I called them and said, hey, why didn't you bid? And they said, we just honestly didn't have enough time.
Okay.
So those were local bids.
So if we went back out, if we maybe gave direction to go back out for that project, at this point, reject the current bid, go back out with a new bid, to possibly get more local bidders, and we went out for temporary notes, what that would look like. We could possibly be looking at that within the next month and a half, 2 months.
Pete, do you think the main reason we got few bids was the time, or was there how it's written, or would you change anything in the specs?
Would you grab a mic real quick?
Microphone.
Or Cooper?
Sorry, yeah. So yeah, just looking at the alley, the bid, I mean, we can go back through the specs, because, that's the issue. The specs and the plans came from a different engineer. So we reviewed the plans fairly thoroughly for the time that we had them. The specs, we went through them briefly, but we were trying to get that out to bid. So, I mean, we could look at the specs again, but it sounds like it was just more timing. I think everything was there as far as specs go. But
one of the things that we have talked about that parking lot. And so is that something that needs to be included in this? Not included? After we talk to the engineers, they do not feel like maybe gravel is the best way. So that's another discussion that needs to happen.
Well, and when we talked about gravel, that was temporary. Gravel's better than dirt, better than weeds. So that's what I said. At this point in time, until we get our decision made, what's going on here, I don't see a problem with us putting down clean gravel on the parking lot and clean gravel on the alley to make sure that the patrons that are using the drive-through and things like that are taken care of to the best of our ability. At this point, gravel's pretty cheap compared to a hard surface, and the gravel's going to have to be there anyway.
yeah, and if the city actually owns that corner lot, that's, if you want to maintain it with gravel, that's fine, I think. And the issue with the alley is the water, again, coming off the roofs and causing flooding in the basements, especially of the building that has just been redone for millions of dollars, and he's got issues. So that's part of the urgency of it, I think. But I think we all agree it needs to be rebid, and we can thoroughly go through it again and make sure, basically the design engineer has already signed off on his design, so we just need to look at it and make sure it's not missing anything. But I think from what Susan is saying, the bidders that wanted to bid on it just didn't have enough time.
I also feel like on the parking lot, I've been approached by someone that would possibly like to, whether it be purchased or deeded the property, what have you. So I think there's some other ideas that we could discuss there, rather than ourselves have to get into a big expense in building the parking lot. There might be some other avenues we can take there to take that off of our hands.
All right, so the first one on there.
I'm sorry, can I ask you a couple more? Actually, probably several questions. So the concern about doing because our what we're looking for was a way to alleviate the parking issue on Main Street. And having a parking lot available gives us a leverage to ask people to park there. Is having the gravel there a problem for that drainage into the alley? Is that the issue with her? Why
No,
not?
The issue with gravel parking is knowing the people that use it don't know where to park. I mean, they'll figure it out, but we don't want a bunch of fender benders and stuff in there.
Okay.
And there's not a lot you can do to mark a gravel parking lot.
Okay.
Unless it's just, a straightaway off a road, and maybe, but you still.
Could a guy not take some parking curbs up there and put them down and set them at a slant?
So yeah, if you guys want to look at that.
Okay, and
that'd be fine.
Thank you. If we're going to bid it, can you bid them separate in the sense as you bid them, they could bid the alley and bid the parking lot as a separate add-on in some way? Should we do that?
Yeah, we can entertain that. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure where we are. I have several other questions. Are we doing this in a lump? So Cooper Street. Well, part of it, okay, I'm sorry to wander this, but it's my thought processes. So one is, this is a huge bill, and if we finance it, Susan, I'm not sure how that's going to impact our future budget constraints, what that's going to add to it. So that's half the question I would ask about. The other half of it is there any other way to engineer the street so it's not as costly? Is there part of it had to do, I know, with the amount of traffic on it and the size of the traffic and the weight of the trucks. Do they have to go down that street? Could they be routed on another street? That would be less expensive to do, and then repair that one in a different way. Can we make that a gravel street so that, I'm just looking for solutions that are not going to cost us $1.5 million to do this. And obviously, I'm ignorant about my options, so
I think that
I'm looking at you guys to ask questions.
I think that I've had discussions with people and about that street, and you're right as far as putting that type of money on a street that some would call a back road. Once we built that road, it became very popular, and a lot of people used it throughout the industrial park, throughout to get down to Taco Bell, let's say. It's a good little road, and it became very popular. It bottlenecks down. There's some issues. There's some grade issues. There's drainage issues. We built a flat road in a swamp is what happened. We couldn't run the water off. So I think there is ways to go around this, and I think that you're going along the right way, Randy. You won't hear that very often, but just waller in it for a little bit. I think we can come up with a less expensive way to do that. But as far as getting away from heavy truck traffic, that's not going to happen. You're going to have heavy truck traffic down that road no matter what, because the property owners there are, O'Brien's Ready Mix, Jason Marbury. They're going to have heavy trucks forever. So that's why they bought that property, is because they're going to run their trucks in and out there. So no matter what we do, we've got to build that surface to withhold heavy vehicles. And there's a lot of truck traffic back towards the Ward Craft back in there also.
So do you all see any alternatives to the current construction specs or?
Well, you can always.
Yeah. Yeah. So he said gravel is an option. And then over the years, there's ongoing maintenance that may be more often than even asphalt, but you can chip seal it. But the issue, I think, it's almost like what it was before, and it was failing. So the concern was, like Kevin said, the drainage issues make that failure happen sooner.
Absolutely.
And so the solution, and like Mr. Nichols said, the traffic that's on it and the size of that traffic, the trucks, and we talked to city staff, and basically with the city yard being right there close, I guess there was occasions in the past where they want to go out to the highway, but there's only one traffic signal up on that. I think it's 23rd or 20th, one of those. But if they don't take that route, then they're dealing with traffic concerns. And I think there was accidents in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So they've ended up taking Cooper Street as their main route. So for the city forces, I don't think it's a back road anymore. And then a business is obviously there that's their main access point. So, and they're all big trucks. So that's kind of how that came out.
Sure.
As far as a design section that would handle that traffic and perform for the design life that it's intended. You know, typical design life is 20 years for these roadways. With asphalt, you still got regular maintenance to do, but
So to go with what Randy said, you think that road has to have curbs, has to be widened down at the bridge. None of that
Yep.
stuff can be pulled out.
for longevity, that would be necessary. But if you're just trying to maintain it, keep it open, then gravel and chip seal can be acceptable.
Well, I mean, it wasn't gravel and chip seal before without curbs. So you're saying curbs are a must?
If you're trying to take care of the drainage problem, then that's what you need to do to take care of the drainage problem. You can take a look at the bids and take out the pavement. Obviously, gravel's fairly inexpensive here. And you can fix the drainage, widen the roadway, do the dirt work, and just put down rock for now. With the realization in the future, if it's dust control, you may have to chip seal it and do something like that. But the pavement is what's an expensive item. And if you can put that off for now by still doing the rest, because like you said, if you don't take care of the drainage, you're basically got a swampland down there. Whether you have gravel or not, it's not going to hold. Your subbase is going to give way.
You're exactly right. And when we sat there and looked at that, when we first started talking about this, where the drainage issues came in was right about down, let's say on the south side of O'Brien's, where it got really flat and it got swampy down in there. And I think we could work on that as far as city forces, whatever, building that up. We need to build that up. We need to put whistles in, get all that fixed. And I just think I think that's something we need to. We have to address the drainage issues.
Right. I think that's what we have to back up and say, okay, let's fix the drainage and, the little bit of dirt work it takes to widen the roadway so you can actually have two vehicles on it.
Right.
And then look at gravel surfacing for now. Look down the road, put it in your 10-year plan as a paving. Now you kind of know what kind of dollars you're talking about.
How do you maintain dust control? There is a house that's right there. That currently is probably getting a half inch of dust a day in the house that we've created.
Others, that's not that much. But actually, they're probably getting dust anyway. They're right next to the concrete plant. I mean,
trust me, not like it is now.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, they tore up a hard surface road.
Yeah.
But when you do gravel, the way to do dust control is chip seal. That's how you control the dust.
We also have ways, Bob, that could probably be discussed, on gravel roads. When residents don't want to deal with the dust, they'll pay for oiling to come by or things of that nature to cut down on the dust. And that might be something we can discuss as far as our part to cut down over there.
It's hard to control dust on a gravel road. It is. Because it's a gravel road.
Right.
Well,
Chip.
So did my wife when she drove up there. So yeah, I'm not trying. I'm sorry, Liz.
Pete, did you have something, Pete?
Well, maybe what you do is take a hard look at thicker gravel and a thinner asphalt for now.
Well, I think there's several things we discussed too. Asphalt millings. I don't know whether that.
Yeah, the biggest problem with millings is they're very hard to maintain.
I knew I was going to get a head shake out of Pete on that one.
No, you'd be better off doing a thicker layer of gravel and then putting a 2 or 3 inch cap on it.
Yeah, right now what we have over there, Bob, is basically millings. Am I correct, Pete?
Yeah. Well, the millings are pretty well all gone.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying.
And it's pretty much,
right now we just got.
But, yeah, we had millings on there. But one of the things that we're forgetting here that Cooper Street goes from East National to 23rd Street, and all we're talking about here is 20th to 23rd Street. So we're not even halfway there. And there's absolutely, if we do half of it and don't do anything on the other half, we're right back to square one. So we're going to have to, I think we're going to have to back up and refocus on what we're doing and focus on the whole thing, focus on the base, focus on the drainage, and get those things that we can afford to do, get those done. And we did when we first mentioned Cooper Street, this was to be done in 2020. And in 2020, we were going to do just exactly that. We were going to fix the base. We were going to put rock down and run on it until 2021. Then in 2021, we were going to cap it. And so that's, we're only almost 2 years behind that now.
And again,
But that was the plan.
what we were talking about also was using our county allies and coming up with the AB3 to put on that. Because as far as I know, we just put a couple loads of AB3 down there in some holes at one point in time, and we haven't coated it since then. So
Well, we haven't fixed the base yet. That base is weak. The base has to be fixed. And we're fixing the base from 20th to 23rd, but we're not fixing the base from 20th to National.
Basically,
and that has to be done. So we're doubling the size of the job. We just have to. But we have to do it within our budget.
So basically what we're talking about is revisiting the construction options while Susan looks at our financial options to tell us what that impact is for the next 10 years. Is that?
Yes.
Here we go. I would make the motion that we table the consideration for bid for Cooper Street reconstruction. With the direction, I guess, that we would need to look at alternate options of what we're capable of doing right now in the process of looking at possibly what it would look like for the city to go out for temporary notes to complete.
Yeah, I think
what
if
we're capable of.
we utilize that 60-day time frame, if it's tabled, that way it doesn't just go away.
Absolutely.
And then we can evaluate costs for this alternate section and what it would take to do that.
Is there a second?
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Pete Allen.
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Lindsey Watts.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Abstain. All right, consideration of bid National Avenue overlay. Any questions on that? Any concerns? Is there a motion? Do you see any concerns with this bid at all?
Well,
No, there was the prices were reasonable, and
And this includes
Yeah,
milling. This includes milling the.
yeah,
the
they're
part
going to
that needs
clean up.
milled. Yeah.
So they're going to clean up the milling that was already done.
Right.
Up to 1 inch worth. So there, and I visited with your public works director out there before, and kind of talked about what some special areas that they could consider. But yeah, that's in there. And the low bid, as bid, again, there was a quantity issue, but the low bid was $57,510.75.
How much?
Based on the bid form. So the bid to do the actual project, that's where the 90,000 or 80,000. Yeah.
90.
Okay.
So that's one, but it'll be a change order to do the rest of it. Because there was, so if you look at the quantities, so item number 4 is asphalt tonnage, which is the surface, 2-inch surface. The bid form, I don't think you have the contract book, but
So
it
we
has
don't have that.
415 tons, but the actual volume needed to overlay that is 705 tons, which is what ended up in your packets, I believe.
So you have that's what's in our.
Yeah, there
So
it is.
Hecker,
Yeah.
with their as-bid prices would be $90,606.75.
Okay, so that's for 705 tons,
Yes,
and with milling.
with additional, same additional milling.
So we're looking at Heckert. So we're looking at spending an additional $16,200 for milling that we've already done and already paid for once.
Right, but they didn't mill it all down to the brick either. So it was meant to cover, they've got to go through, even if it was just portions of it, they still got to run their machine all the way across. So we didn't go out there and measure where it was all brick and where it wasn't peeled off.
Is the intent to mill all the asphalt off the brick?
Yes.
So
Every bit of it?
That's the intent.
Is that possible?
that's why we're trying to pay him to do that. So there's, like I said, there's gonna be some areas where it's delicate, where they gotta get right against the driveways.
But the first milling couldn't mill it down to the,
And I don't know why they
Rick.
couldn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say who.
It's
So
very
who takes the?
difficult. It's
And that was
very-
Bettis, I think, that did that.
It was better.
So who takes the hit for that? If we're like, I mean, because I'm sure one of the questions by the citizens is going to be, you already paid somebody to do that. Now we're going to pay somebody another $16,000 to clean up somebody's mess. Was that our fault? Was that Bettis? Was that yours?
I cannot take the blame for that.
Well, no, it's not their blame. We were supposed to have an inspector on the job, and it didn't happen.
So you're taking the blame?
Well, I might as well. You know, I take the blame for everything else. But
Can you speak into the micro?
Yes, but no, it's a matter of we just weren't there. It's our responsibility to inspect when we have a job done.
And did we have anybody appointed as an inspector at that point in time?
Well, our public works director is by code, by ordinance. Our public works director is our inspector.
We didn't have one at that point.
Yeah, we had an interim.
Right.
But
So anything on this bid? Any questions on this bid on National? Motion?
I would make the motion that we approve the consideration for bid for Heckert Construction Company for the overlay of National Avenue from 13th to 17th.
Yeah, I'll second it.
are we? Do we have funds?
Yes. Susan said that this is the project that we do have funds for, and she would recommend.
How do we have funds, Susan? Can you tell?
The sheet she gave us.
Yep.
That sheet she gave us shows the funds we have.
Funds we have for national?
The funds we have.
We have 75,000.
No, that's the completed,
Oh,
at the
that's
very, the
completed.
total available for projects at the very bottom.
We have 30. Well, so-
332,660.
So we're going to use out of those funds.
Correct.
To do national.
Any other questions?
Kevin Allen,
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Lindsey Watts.
Yes.
Pete Allen.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. Consideration of bid Horton Street mill and overlay. Questions?
I mean, I think the only thing we go back to is Susan's statement. We don't have the.
We would probably need to table this within
Table
the
it.
30 to 60, 90 day window.
The only thing I would say on the Horton, as we've discussed before, is that while we're tabling this, we stay up on it, Jesse, with our machine, the pothole patcher, as far as making sure we stay up on the potholes, reopen up after rains and things like that. We need to stay on that. That's a highly trafficked street, and we need to make sure that that's being taken care of while we're in the process of trying to find funds available to take care of it.
There's a motion. Oh, Jesse, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
So, I'm sorry, we're talking about tabling this to move forward, Al?
To move forward.
Talk about borrowing the money, Susan, is that what we're,
Correct.
this is included in the loan?
This would be included, and if we were to be able to obtain, if it would make sense to approve temporary notes, then at that point we would look at being able to move forward with all or some of these projects, and then this year or next year.
Is there a motion?
I would make the motion to table Horton Street mill and overlay consideration for bid. And
Jimmy's coming
Well, yeah, I was going to say, where's our computer guy?
right there.
Is there a second?
Second.
Pete Allen,
Abstain.
Kevin Allen,
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Lindsey Watts.
yes,
Josh Jones.
Abstain. Consideration of bid Union Block Alley. As we kind of touched on a minute ago.
Yeah, I think that was kind of discussed with some of the questions, so a similar deal with one bidder, but I think because of the size of that discrepancy, I think that deserves to be rebid in the future, and we can look at options to add the parking lot as an alternate. But
We could just
Timeline?
shut down the alley and shut down the coffee shop. Right.
right,
Dan?
we don't want to.
Is there anyone here to speak about
We don't
that?
want to mess with the traffic.
I just saw Jen standing back there.
What's your timeline?
Say again.
We have a timeline of what we're looking at.
I guess if you want to consider the bid as it is, that's fine, and we can do an ad alternate for dealing with the parking area.
I think
But now you're just adding more money.
right. I think we would like to go out for a bid to be able to, with enough time to be able to gain more bidders and our local bidders that did not have time to be able to put in a bid for this process.
So that's,
Project.
bottom line, whatever we do moving forward, I think the recommendation would be, at this time, would be to reject the bids and rebid it in the future.
Can I make a suggestion, Bob? And I don't know if it's something that next time we get only one bid, and it could be a thing, can we not open them? Just not open the bid until the meeting and discuss this first, so the bid's not shown.
Yeah, you'd always have that option if you just have one, just don't open it.
That's a great point too, Josh, because now this company is saying, okay, now my hand showed,
That's not saying you can't open it. When you have a bid, it's public.
You want to speak into the mic, please?
When you have a bid, it's a public bid, and it's therefore open publicly. That's what it says in the specification. So you can't just take a bid and just because you get one, not open it. You can't do that.
Well, the county does not open their bids till they're actually
You can't
looking.
open them at the council
Right.
meeting.
And so
Yes.
what I'm saying is at the council meeting, if we decide, hey, there's only one bid, maybe we possibly need to look out, you're saying we cannot not open that bid?
Well, okay. When you put the specs out, you put it out that it's a certain date, a certain time,
Right.
that those bids will be open. If you want that time and date to be at a council meeting, we can do that. But you can't set it for a week before and then not open them until the council meeting. No, you can't do
So basically, I mean, this is all on us for not putting it out longer.
Correct.
We're not disputing the
Well,
bid. We're disputing that it wasn't out long enough.
Maybe, but I dispute the bid anyway because it's twice what the engineer's estimate is. Normally, if the bid is more than 10% of what the engineer's estimate goes, it's rejected. So for that reason, you could reject the bid anyway.
And again, I understand what you're talking about as a bidder on projects. If they say the bids are going to be open at 10 a.m. on Thursday and I'm there waiting on the couch for them to open, they say, well, we decided we're not going to open yours. That's a problem.
That's a problem.
Because again, like we have bidders sitting in the audience tonight that put time and effort into these projects, a ton of time.
That's right.
So do we have a motion?
I would move to reject this bid and go out for bid, and we need to ask for, do we need to specify how long we're going to be putting it out for?
Yeah, what do you mean? Like the advertising time?
I'd say we bring it back at the next meeting with their
I was going to say we can't do that. That's
not
what we
the
did.
bid. We're talking about the proposal, their new proposal.
What's the next council meeting in September?
First Tuesday in September.
The bid.
So the question is, if we put it out 3 to 4 weeks, 5 weeks, there's not enough time this year to get the job done for the weather, is there?
For concrete?
Yeah, that's all.
But if you don't want to go more than probably 30 more days from now, you get a bid.
If we were to go,
Yeah, so I guess for Jen's sake, if we put it out and it goes out this year and the weather turns bad and we have to close the alley off for 2 months, is that the way the commission wants to go?
no. So that's what I'm looking for a recommendation as to what the timeline should be, because the information that we're getting is we have one bid that's is a lot higher than what our engineering costs look like, and we've gotten feedback that the local contractors didn't have enough time. So how much time should we put it out for along with the thought process is we're going to have to come back and approve this for the work to be moving forward.
Right. So the process, if we've got to look at it again and do this ad alternate, I believe is what you want for the parking area. But then, and that's just materials really.
I don't think you weren't talking
Or do
about
you
an
not wanna do
alternate at all.
I just want to know, accept the bid back by the 14th. We don't have one on the 14th, but we have one on the 7th. The 7th and the 21st.
We can have one.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to open bids at the commission meeting,
Well, and that we don't have to go to the commission meeting, but we can accept them up to that day, is what you're saying. So you need till the 14th.
and yeah, we can say open on the 14th.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that enough time for work completion to be able to come back for the contractors to be able to say that? I mean, it's up in the air at this point, is right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it all depends on what time winter we have.
Okay. So I would make the motion that we reject. Does this need to be two bids? Or I'm sorry, two motions? Okay. I would move that we reject the bid for the Union Block Alley and go out for a new bid proposal with bid applications to be opened on the 14th of September. So would they need to be due in on the 13th or?
No, they're just due
that day.
That day at that time.
Okay.
No later than that time.
No later than 5 p.m.
Well, we can, 10 a.m. is a good time.
10 a.m.
Do it
I'm
for
sorry.
you.
Second.
10 p.m. might work okay.
That's with,
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
that, just to be completely honest, that is without the alternate at this point, because I feel like that's going to delay the process for being able to move forward in a timely manner for what we're looking at.
Correct.
Yes.
Only the
Alley.
alley. And it was 22% over the engineer's expected cost. 122%.
All right, so do you have that motion?
I got it.
All right, is there a second?
Yes.
Yes.
Kevin.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Pete Allen.
That you.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Lindsay Watts.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right, item H, consideration of bid below grade restoration Eagle Block CDO.
Where is that?
Yeah, these bids we tried to have these by last Friday, so you guys would have time to look at them. Going through them.
Letter HP. Pete.
We basically had that scoped out. Everyone bid the same thing. I think there was a question earlier today about did everyone include materials cost? Yes, they did. So our recommendation stands that O&B Masonry and Construction was the low bidder for both buildings. Total cost of $32,500, and we recommend awarding the contract to him. Pending any questions.
Any questions?
And we're saying we can fund these.
Susan.
Are we saying we could fund this bid?
This is for the building.
I have been in contact with the insurance company, waiting on a response from them, but it's really hard for me to, this is all coming out of your general fund at this point. Any costs that we incur, so we know what insurance is going to do.
And we have these funds in the general fund?
This may be putting the cart before the horse, but does this have anything to do with backfill?
No, so this contract has nothing to do with backfill. Backfill is actually contracted to the demo contractor. So, and the way that agreement was written, the demolition contract needs to be put on a halt, suspended, so that they can come in and do the waterproofing work below grade. And then when that's done and I guess certified, then the demo contractor can come back and do the backfill operation.
I will say that and the reason I asked that is because I received a message earlier that there is water already because of the rain we had encroaching in the basement of the business there. I will probably highly recommend when we go back with backfill that there be gravel in that area with a drain system of some nature.
Well, yeah, and we need to probably maybe look at that, but I think the main reason they got water, if it was from that south wall, is because it's bare now where it was not before.
Right.
And whatever, if there's, and we went down there and looked at that, and there's a couple locations where you could see daylight, and that could have been, an air return thing or something. So that probably, and that was covered before.
Right.
By the CDL building's floor. So there's definitely locations now that allow water in that didn't allow it before.
I get it.
And that's part of the reason, this is all emergency procurement and all this stuff. We're trying to expedite getting these contracts approved. And like I said, all the bidders had equal footing. And
do we have a time frame for the bidders to complete?
Yeah. And we've got an agreement drafted already that I can leave with you guys tonight. But so time frame, we're going to give a maximum of 30 days for substantial completion with an additional 15 for final closeout. Susan, that's at the most. So I think they can get it done sooner, but we don't, again, it's weather, could be delays, all kinds of issues, but we want to get it as soon as we can.
The north building is the first one, is that right? I mean, that would be the one we would want first because it has a basement. The other one doesn't have a basement.
Other way around. So the Sharkey's building is the one with the basement.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
The Hammond's building does not. They have a crawl space. Yeah. So, now because Sharkey's building is getting water, I think, we can direct that should be your starting point.
So my question was, when you talked about money, you're saying insurance is possibly going to have a play in it, but we may have to go ahead and front the money now and then wait on the insurance money.
And depending on which building we're working on, we can go for some urgent need grants to kind of help with that. But as we're doing the bids, we need to be sure that we're separating out the buildings because one's a contributing building and one's not. So kind of keep that in mind. Yeah. So
perfect.
As we're doing our applications, we'll need to put that in there.
I'll make the motion to take the engineer's recommendation of low bid.
I'll second it, but I do have a question. So this is a bid for the below ground work, and there'll be another bid coming for the above ground work, and is that in the process already?
Yes, all the above grade, and if you've all been on the email traffic, which includes the commissioners, the building owners, current demo contractors, current bidders of below grade. So I think you can all attest that there's been lots of deliberation and clarifications about what the scope is, and we've requested those to be turned in by the 3rd of September.
Bless you.
Okay, thanks. I just, sorry. So I did second you.
Yep. Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Lindsay Watts. Pete Allen.
Yes.
Kevin Allen.
Abstain.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right. Consideration to purchase used truck from Fort Scott Auto, $18,000 for Public Works. Jesse, if you want to speak on this.
Okay, it's a 2011 GMC Sierra. It's in our mechanic Tom. He checked it out, said it's in pretty good shape. There's some cosmetic stuff, but with the used vehicle, that's about it. They're giving us a deal. They took it as a trade-in, and they're just giving it to us for what they took it as a trade-in at. I got your list in front of you.
The rough trade-in is value 17.5 roughly. So, and if we were to go to buy the truck, they would price it at 25.5. So we're getting that 18 what they paid for it.
Just got-
Sounds like you're working with it. Is there any obligation to bid this? I mean, have we looked around, have we shopped it, or gotten alternative pricing, or?
Yeah, for a diesel truck, right now, you're probably not gonna find one, that's in this good a shape, that we can pull. Cause if we're gonna make a purchase of a truck, it needs to be something that we can pull with as well. We're not gonna find anything for less than 20.
How many miles on it, Jesse?
228.
Duramax.
Yes.
So again, Bob, is there any legal obligations for us to bid these things?
No, when you're buying used equipment, it's very specific because it's hard to put specs out and whatever.
Yeah.
It just depends on what they find and the mechanic goes through what we've done in the past.
Yes, and he did, and he approved it.
I would make the motion to approve the purchase of the used truck from Fort Scott Auto for Public Works.
I'll second it.
Lindsay Watts,
Yes.
Randy Nichols,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
I'll pass.
Kevin Allen,
Abstain.
Josh Jones,
Abstain.
Pete Allen,
Abstain.
did not pass.
So abstentions go with the major vote, but this takes three positive votes without an abstention.
What's that mean?
Who's voted or who hasn't? Or
We had
They have
two
three
I
yeses.
was
abstain.
reading a contract here.
We had 3 abstentions and 2 yeses.
2 yes and 3 abstain.
I think it passes
This abstention is
because you have a quorum.
Yeah.
And if nobody's going to stand up.
Yeah, and I just abstain because I've done work with those people, and so.
Yeah.
Um,
Otherwise, you'd be here all
So-
night.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, I guess
Is there a reason that
legally,
you're abstaining?
legally, can I vote? I mean,
Well, that's why I'm asking.
If you've done it in the past, are you in a current dealing with that company to where you're under contract or you're?
It
I
doesn't
mean-
create an automatic conflict
right.
unless
Okay.
you're transacting business with them at the moment.
Yeah, I'll vote if I can change mine.
Sure.
to yes. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
Can I change mine?
I abstain
I'm gonna turn
because
off your mic.
Because you're on the building.
conflict of interest. Yeah. Just making sure.
All right.
Well, I
Police
figured.
department update.
Good evening, Commission. So about 3 weeks ago, I got a resignation notification from one of our officers who happens to be the canine, our police dog handler. And so, very, very good officer. He's going over to the Bourbon County Sheriff's Office. So what we did was we solicited letters of interest within the department who wants to be, the canine handler, and we received that. Well, that was on the 6th. On the 9th, I received a letter from Sheriff Martin advising that he would be interested in purchasing our police dog and our police car or canine car with the equipment, etc. So after thinking about it, I had some internal discussions as well. Went over and visited with Bill at the sheriff's office, and I told him, I said, well, I'm not prepared to do away with our entire canine program or canine program. However, with the dog, I mean, the money wasn't an issue. I'm not objectable to donating the dog, provided it was okay with the commission, to the sheriff's office, and then using our drug seizure fund to get another one and start a new handler with a new dog. currently, our dog is he's 5 or 6 years old, so he's probably got 2 more years of service. Very, very, like I said, good dog. After a conversation we visited with the sheriff, Jason Pickard, our captain on the police department, he had contacted some other canine venues, NAPAWADA, which that acronym I'm not sure exactly what all that is, but we're certified through that organization as well. He'd kind of given the master handler our scenario or our situation, and he kind of confirmed the same thing. He said, look, it'd probably be best he knew our canine handler and dog, because we've certified up there. And he said, yeah. He said, your probably best bet is to go ahead and donate the dog over to the sheriff's office and start new. So that brings us here, and that's what my request is to donate the dog and the kennel to the sheriff's office. Right, we can go ahead and initiate and look at some vendors for and outfit our new canine handler as well. And of course, we have to get another kennel. But I think that like I said, we would dip into our drug seizure funds, which is funded our canine, and I think the sheriff has a similar program in his department.
Can you break down the cost of a dog in a kennel?
So we're looking, and these are rough, but between $5,000 and $10,000 probably for the dog. Kennel, $400. And if we need to pour a 10x10 pad, Kevin, you may be able to answer that.
$500.
The place we're looking at right now, there's already a pad would be fine, but potential he may move next door, which is his mother's place, which we would look at that down the road if that took place. But yeah, about $400 for a kennel, between $5,000 and $10,000 for the dog. And that's like I said, it's in there, but I don't know. I don't have exact price on it.
I got a dog. I'll sell you.
Well,
she smells everything.
So the thing of it is the drug fund that we look at, or that we have, the drug seizure fund. We are limited on what that can be spent on, and this is a dog, and I think I told the commission before. The dog is a very good example of what that money can be spent on.
So I think one of the questions is, when I first started thinking about this, I'm thinking, why would we give our dog away and go buy a new dog? And then the question's kind of been answered. Well, it's got 2 years left on it. And from what I've understood, the dog kind of goes with the handler.
It's kind of funny, Commissioner, because this handlers and dogs have mismatched before. But this in my view, this is a kind of a unique situation as well. This the dog and the handler about have the same personality.
Right.
The
dog actually drives.
They work well together, and I've babysat the dog when he goes on vacation, and he'll mind me just a little bit. But when Daddy comes picks him up, it's totally I'm chopped liver. So yes, it's a unique situation, I think, too.
I think what he's trying to explain is that handler and dog, they form this particular bond.
You want to go to the mic, Bill? Appreciate it. I appreciate it. The people at home want to hear your voice. This is your sheriff, ladies and gentlemen.
I thought he was going to leave.
I'm not here. I'm under the witness protection program. Well, you should. And no, we don't need a dog that sniffs everything. We have an attorney that comes to court and challenges on that. That's right. The handler, the dog and the handler kind of forms a particular special bond. It's kind of difficult and hard to separate them. I've gone through supervisor school for canine handlers, and that's one thing, trying to separate a dog and a handler. The dog's always going to look for that particular handler. You're trying to train a new one. So it's in the best interest, but I feel, and I agree with Travis, they build a special bond that's hard to break, and you just don't need a dog that's kind of confused and doesn't know what it's doing. Yeah. So the push to transfer the dog to the sheriff's department with the new deputy, that that came over from the police department is a good choice. I mean, it's a good choice to make.
Well, I think it's good for you guys to work together on this deal, and I mean, the ultimate goal is to get the drugs off the streets and out of the home. So I think if as long as we're working together on that.
Do we need a motion, Bob, for this, or is this just operational procedure?
You probably need a motion because you're affecting city property.
Or donating as opposed
Right.
to.
So we need to move to transfer the dog with the trainer and continue with our canine program as Travis outlined.
That's correct.
I believe the dog in the kennel, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the kennel.
Yeah, I don't want a homeless dog. So
Anything else, Bill?
And we're gonna, yeah, I was gonna say, who's the negotiator on this deal? You need to leave the negotiations to us next time. $400.
Was there a motion?
Second.
Did Randy make a motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Pete Allen,
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Lindsay Watts.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
All right. Human resource update, city manager search. Right.
Why do I have?
Good evening. Can you hear me, Pete?
Yes.
Okay. Wanted to come tonight to talk a little bit about our city manager search, to get some feedback from the commission on how we want to proceed that. Come up with 3 options, and it's broke down on this listing here. Option 1 is to contract the company that was contracted last time, and the price is listed there with travel and their expenses. It came to $11,770. Option 2 comes through the LEAPS program, which is from the Kansas League of Municipalities. The base price is almost $8,000, but when you add in all their advertising, their participation in the interviews, and things like that, it comes down to $13,000. So option 3 is one that I put together myself, and I want to read a little bit of it. You can read most of it yourself, but I want to make sure I hit on the high points. Advertising on social media, LinkedIn is one of the better ones for business. Would be $1,000. Advertise in the league. They will post the advertisement for you for $100. Advertise in the ICMA, which is the International City County Management Association. For 60 days, they will post the advertisement and the job description for $600. So the total cost for that would be $1,700. That's not including, of course, our HR recruiting efforts. And I think that's one of the biggest parts of this, is to actually get out and recruit and not just wait for people to come to you. And so, a lot of the ways is going online, searching for assistant city managers or city managers that you can reach out to that may be something that Fort Scott could benefit from. With this, I also included the interview process. And of course, this is just an idea that I had. I did run it through with Mr. McCoy. One of the biggest things I feel with this interviewing process is going to be doing extensive background checks. I think that would be something that you really need to spend time on. There's a lot of different avenues you can go through to make sure the candidate is what you want before you even start the interview process. So extensive background checks, looking at job history, stability, experience, et cetera, et cetera. I would give it 2 weeks before we start reviewing applicants, just to get that pool, because it will take time for the social media posts and the advertisement to get through to everybody that can see it. So after we get the applicants, then we can start looking at it as a review board. The first round of interviews be something a little bit different what we normally do. I would think more eyes would be better. So the first round of interviews would be with 3 distinguished business leaders here in Fort Scott, 2 HR specialists, and a city commission liaison. Also, the interviewing would be done with a 5-point system. So basically, you're going to be looking at categories. You're not just going to be looking at the person and saying, you know, I like him. No, we're going to be looking at different categories, and each segment of questions are going to be standardized for that interview process. So we're going to be doing set questions. The second round of interviews will be with the city commissioners. So if we had 10 candidates in the first round, if all 10 of them fell within a good category range, we could bring them all back, and then the city commissioners could do interviews with them using the same 5-point system. And after the second round of interviews, we narrowed down the candidates to 3 using a point system to determine the finalists. And once the 3 is established, then we all come together to interview them again. And to me, that does not stop it there. I really feel once we get to know them, we need to do additional background checks on them. You know, we're from small town USA. You know, a lot of people that's going to come to us is also going to be coming from small town USA. We know each other. So you can find out about a person's character and their experience from visiting with others. So that's the 3 options that I brought to you. I'm open for feedback, but I feel those are the 3 that we can go with.
I will say if option 1 is considered, Jeff Hancock sent out his firm's hiring thing as well. So just want to put that there, that I believe every commissioner got it.
I don't know if that was sent on to staff or not.
I think I forwarded it to Brad. Yeah.
Did you? Okay. Yeah. Do you remember how much it was?
It was right around the same price. So, yeah, I just want to throw that out there if that's the way.
I thought it was like 19,000.
Right, I think it was.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
I like option 3, to be quite honest. I'd have had some conversation, and I think that's kind of getting other. I like the idea of having outside business owners and members of the community involved in that process. So,
on option 3, have you narrowed it down to any? I mean, I don't know if you've reached out to anyone just in case
right.
That's right, or. I mean, I know there's some HR specialists. We have 2 HR specialists and 3 other people in the community.
I'd rather not say their name yet, but the ones that I've reached out to, I really feel everybody will think they're excellent candidates because they are highly active and highly thought of in our community.
And they've been doing HR for a while, I'm assuming.
Very much, yes.
I think that's a great option. Option 3.
I agree. Yeah, good point.
So you're looking at putting this out, and then if that's the option we went with, after you had so many candidates, or after 2 weeks, after 30 days, bring them together? Or are you looking at wait until the end of the timeline and doing?
I would go with, once you start getting candidates in, start doing the background checks, and that would weed out, you know, the ones that may not stand out. And then in a couple weeks, then we could start the process of, we don't have to wait 30 days to 2 months to start interviewing. You can interview 5 people and wait and interview 5 more. I think once they see this on the postings, they're going to apply then. They're not going to wait either. So we wait a week or whatever.
Anyone else have any questions or concerns or thoughts on which option? Randy?
Oh, I'd like a chance to look it over and maybe run it through Mark. We could all use him as a
liaison,
feeding ideas to Mark. And that he could kind of coordinate them if we could. There's a couple of things in here that I really want to think about before I say it's. I think the concept is fine. It's the details that I'd like to think about.
Absolutely.
Mark, have you looked this over at all?
I have. Brad and I have spoken quite a bit about this. It's important to me, for us, for the community, to do our due diligence and to do thorough and complete background investigations. To have 2 HR professionals as part of it, part of the interview process is very important to me, and also having the 3 community people. I've participated with this process before with the College Board of Trustees, and I do think, though, Brad, maybe we should set a date where we were accepting applications through X date.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I'm sorry if I failed to mention that to you before, and I don't. So, but I think this is a good plan. I'm available, as you all know, I'm available 24/7 for you to call me or talk to me. And I'm happy to go through this with you, with Brad. He's an integral part of this.
Sure.
And anything we do for hiring any of the employees here needs to be done with due diligence.
Great points. Do we need a motion to do this, Plan 3, or we just go for it? Or you guys want me to pick somebody?
No.
Well, looks like the initial part in terms of starting to get the information
Advertise.
out for the application. We start on exactly how they're vetted, maybe where we need to talk about that just a little bit, or I'd like some clarity at some
Understand.
point. I'll just talk to you, Mark, about it, and we'll see. So.
Do you want to bring this back to the next meeting? Do you want to wait 2 weeks?
Let's get the application started. My
Okay.
preference would be to start if we're going to do this, let's get the application process started.
So I would make the motion that we start with the advertising with option 3, how you've had this listed out. Brad, go ahead and start with that process.
I do have a couple of questions. LinkedIn, I know it's national. The League of Kansas Municipalities, I assume, is geographically limited to some degree. Yes. The ICMA, does it cover, is it a national search, or is it more regional? Or do we know?
International.
Oh, it says international.
First
Oh,
word.
Guess I
It
guess I
is,
could have read
it's
that.
everywhere. And actually, I learned today, the league actually has jobs on there for Minnesota, Nebraska. So I think they've spread out a little bit also.
Well, that's my point. So this is a real broad net that we're casting. Okay, good.
Randy Nichols,
Yes.
Lindsay Watts.
Yes.
Pete Allen.
Yes.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Josh
Thank you.
Jones.
Yes. Thanks, Brad.
Hot mic.
All right.
That's crazy. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
I guess that's you disposal of city property.
We're trying to clean up around the yard, and scrap's high, and we have an old dump truck. Pretty much all the usable parts that could be gotten off of it have been robbed off of it. So I just want to get approval to scrap it.
Which dump truck's that international? What are you looking at me for?
I actually don't.
Ooh, trick question. I learned that from Michael. Yeah, it's orange.
Yeah, it's orange.
It's
we have
got
an orange truck.
And it's orange from rust, Commissioner. It's not just current rust or recent rust. I would say it looks like a vehicle from the 70s.
No, it's 80s.
Is it 80s?
Yeah, it's about an 85 International 6-wheeler.
Okay. So that would be how old?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I went and visited with him. And so I attempted to get in the vehicle, but things were falling apart as I attempted to get in.
Right. As long as we have the tranny out of it, I think it's a tranny going.
Yeah, not just us, but the county got some parts too. I was told,
Sure.
So.
Well, I mean that's okay, but I mean the integral parts would be the only thing that I say we get off of: the springs, the rear end.
Like I said, I talked to Tom. He said pretty much anything that we could use has been used.
Absolutely, yeah. As long as Tom's good with it, we've cut everything out of it possible. And if not, if there's some other parts that need to be torched out, let's torch them out before it rolls out there and smoke it. I mean, hydraulic cylinder is also a thing I'm looking at under the bed. You know, those are just
like I
parts.
said, I'll talk to Tom again in the morning before we did anything with it. Anything that we can get used,
Sure.
we for sure will.
There's just a ton of stuff like that. You know, being in that business, hydraulic storage tanks, the cylinder, all
One
that.
of the fuel tanks we use in the shop when we drain fuel for change fuel filters, such as that.
Yeah, typically the city gets every ounce of worth out of their vehicles. I've noticed that. So
you need a motion?
yeah, second. What motion?
Yep. You want to make the motion?
Sure. I'll make the motion that we scrap it.
Lindsay Watts.
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Pete Allen.
Yes.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. Thank you, Jesse. All right, commissioners' reports and comments. Commissioner Kevin Allen?
Do you go to me first every time?
No, it was Randy last time.
Okay.
So,
Well, and being Jesse just went up there, I wanted to say that, you know, I feel like all of our new people are doing a great job. I'm noticing, you know, the guys running up and down the streets, getting a lot of projects done. I feel like we've been making good use of our pothole patcher. They went out the other day, something exciting to me, and Mark, I believe this was probably on your visit. I got alerted that we found our crackpot, and that is that's huge. I know when you say the word crackpot in today's time, you're like, wait a second, what is that? But so the citizens of town know what we're talking about. Pete and Mark went out and visited with Jesse the other day in the place that Bill Lemke mentioned the other day called the Chicken Shack or the Chicken Pen or something like that. Am I saying that right?
Chicken coop.
Chicken coop. And we found a melter, a hot tar melter back there that fills the cracks in the street. And I think this is amazing because it's I got sent pictures of it and it looks like it's in great shape. I spoke with a few of the public works employees that said it's going to be absolutely hardly any effort whatsoever to get this thing up and going, and we'll be able to fill our own cracks in the street rather than have to hire out. So this is exciting news to maintain, you know, areas that so we don't have to go back and redo the streets. If we, like Pete's been preaching for 2 years, street maintenance is a huge part, and now we'll be able to have this $50,000 approximately machine going to work for us almost immediately. So thank you guys for going out there, and thanks Jesse for helping us find that and get that thing going. Brad, great job. I had a citizen come to me today, and they did a little investigation because they heard me talking about the 3rd Street stop sign. And it's funny because I actually, when I first started talking about 1st Street, 2nd Street, and 3rd Street stop signs, it became a little bit of a running joke. And 3rd Street, I wasn't near as adamant about getting taken down as I was the first two. But after talking to him today, he's been doing his own little site work, and he said he's been to that intersection, what would be 33 times. No, I'm sorry, 29 times. And out of the 29 times when he's running north and south, only 4 times out of that 29 times, which equates to probably about 16, 17% of the time, there's any traffic coming from the east and west. And he said, you know, in his opinion, that I've got a great idea in removing that stop sign at 3rd Street. And that would allow it to be an avenue from Wall Street all the way to 6th Street. So I guess in my time, that's probably the last thing I think I have to mention tonight. Oh, the other thing is I noticed that we're back out at the lake finishing up some projects at 195th, and I think that's great because we're getting the water draining. So appreciate you guys getting on that too. And I'll finish my part up with saying I'd like to make a motion to remove the stop sign on the east and west sides on 3rd Street, 3rd and National.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say, you can help me with this if we're following any kind of Robert's Rules of Order.
Oh.
Nothing has changed since the last time you asked that. And so, I mean, has anything changed since the last time this was voted on?
The weather has actually came down a little bit. It was really hot last week, about 98 degrees.
Yeah, you did. So, okay, so let's say this. Do we have any traffic counters at the city of Fort Scott?
He did right there. He gave you.
He did.
Yeah.
Well, except I will interject with that anecdote. This is anecdotal data, and mine is too. And I mow the lawn down there once a week, and I see constant stopping and coming and going in both directions. So it kind of depends on, I'm sure, time of day, where you are, and when you are. But that traffic sign does help control traffic at that intersection, and I still think it's a bad idea to take it
Jesse,
out.
do you know if we have any traffic counters in the city of Fort Scott? We have one on Cooper. Is it something we can do to get traffic counters out going east and west on?
Well, and the other question I would have was, when we removed the stop signs on First and Second Street, did we do a traffic count then, or did we just say we think it's a good idea? And
So what
has
do
there been any accidents since then?
Right. What he's saying is the last time it was voted on, it was voted down 3-2. And since nothing has changed, we haven't done any more data research as the city.
So I'm just asking, are you fine if we do traffic counters out there?
Oh, that's fine. But this Robert's Rules of Order, we adopted that?
No.
Okay,
Just
because I just haven't been paying attention
trying to be
to
a
it.
little
I just
professional.
try to do what's best for the community. So this is Kevin's Rules of Order. I don't even know who Robert is.
I'll show you.
Rob.
Actually, we can have a long conversation because I don't like Robert's Rules of Order.
I don't like
Which
Robert.
is not really what we adopted.
Not Rob.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Well, there is a motion on the table, so.
There's no second.
Oh, wait a second.
Point
we
of
have-
order, though. I thought that
I
we
thought
had decided not to make motions from the commissioner's presentation. It doesn't give people any information, given them time to consider it. It's the same thing. We bring these things up during our time, make a motion about them, and nobody has a chance to consider the issue at all. So,
And I will say, you brought this up before, and I'll say the same thing I said last time. I asked for something to be put on the agenda, and you said, why is this on the agenda? We haven't discussed it yet. So once again, I'm confused on whether you want it brought up at commissioner's time or put on the agenda.
you lost me there, Josh. I think that anything that we're going to act on should be part of the business structure of the agenda. So
I understand your concerns.
Well, in that case, if that's what, I mean, I think we've had plenty of time to discuss the stop signs. I've brought it up at several meetings.
Right.
So maybe I would like to, if it makes you feel better, we have it placed on the next meeting's agenda to where you can have more time to think about it.
well, if you're gonna ask us to act on it, I think that's the way it should be done. Yes.
So are you
Well, I've already
withdrawing
made-
your motion?
No, I'm leaving my motion
So
out there.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Ready? Kevin Allen.
Yes. Oh,
Pete Allen.
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
No.
Lindsey Watts.
No.
Josh Jones.
No.
so now can I make a motion that it be placed on the agenda? Okay, place it on the agenda for the next meeting, please.
Geez, we just acted on it.
I know we did,
I
Randy.
would say if.
Thank you for clarifying that, though. I sometimes get lost. Appreciate you.
I would ask that if it gets brought up again, I mean, there's be supporting data one way or the other.
So that's a good point, Josh. Let's get those. You talk about traffic counters.
Right.
Let's do a study.
So Jesse, is that something that you could look into, that program? Okay. Thank you, Jesse.
Thanks, Jesse.
So maybe not at the next meeting, but when we have the data, would you be
No,
amenable to that?
that'd be great.
Pete, do you have anything?
I'll pass. I'll come back. I'll let Lindsay go next.
He's
Is that
passing.
all right?
That's all right. I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Randy, do you have anything?
Sure. A couple of things. One, I thought the downtown cleanup project was just one of the happiest things I've seen in a long time. It was well done. Lindsay was involved. Bailey was involved. I'll blow it if I try to name everybody, but it was well organized, well orchestrated. It was great to see the kids out there participating in things. I think they accomplished a great deal. Are they the straightest lines in the world? Maybe not, but I think people understand them. And I think I didn't get down, but I think you guys fixed the wall someplace, and they were working in Gun Park, and I assisted the interim city manager, and so it was just a real positive thing. And I compliment everybody that was involved. I thank everybody that showed up, and really, really good job. It was a good thing.
Thank you. I appreciate Justice Health and all the city involvement as well, especially when you just found out about it.
Well, he works well like that. It's good job. So everybody, anyway, thank you to everybody. The second thing I have is again, I don't know where I ran into him. I think I was leaving there, and I ran into one of the codes guys who said, hey, could I ask you about something? And what he was asking about was if it would be possible at some point to have a citywide brush removal like they used to do, where they piled, where people, piled brush at the street. And he says that they go around, they still see lots and lots of limbs down from the storm a year or so ago. And he thinks their idea was clean that. So, and I said I would bring it up. I don't know the feasibility of it. I don't know the cost. I don't know anything else. It's just, if Mark, if you could kind of see if it's feasible or not feasible. It seemed like actually a pretty good idea.
I think now is a proper time. Jesse just said they had a limb come down on a vehicle today too. A whole tree.
Oh.
Needed trimmed.
Oh.
Well, if you're going to come down, you might as well do a good job of it. So. Okay, I think that's all I've got.
I just have two things. If we could next time, I think it's time to review. I know when we first did it, we talked about reviewing it not too long after, was the public works contract with the engineer. I know when they first started, Pete said, I don't know if you need it, but I think it's been a few months now. We can review it, possibly see what we're getting for that. The other thing is, Lindsay kind of brought up earlier, is possibly out at the lake, some kind of fund maintaining. And after research, a lot of lakes do have dock permit fees, and I think it's something we need to look at out there for, to send guys out there inspecting, at least when they build it, and just some kind of fee that about every other lake has. City court, I don't know where we're at with that, about moving it over. I know we've asked, seems like 100 times.
I think we're waiting to get the books from the league, the standard traffic ordinance books. I think they have there's a delay in getting the books.
Okay. And the other thing is, Jesse, the stoplight, I know you said the permit for the trees. Have we got anywhere on the delays on the stoplight?
Still trying to get a hold of the engineer.
Okay. All right. That's all I got.
One thing I would like to add, when we were thanking everybody for their work, also, and not to throw just his name out there because he's got a lot of volunteers with him, is Craig's group painting all the sidewalks, or probably the sidewalks too, but the crosswalks.
Mm-hmm.
They're helping a bunch, and they're having a ball doing it. And he said he would just like to request that people stop driving over them after they paint them because they look really cool. And then he said, I'm so proud. He said, I took Jane for a ride, and I said, I got to show you these crosswalks. And he said, went over there, and I was like, people been driving on these things, and it's really aggravating him. So if you would bunny hop those somehow, or take a different route, maybe Cooper Street. I don't know.
I'm glad you mentioned that because the murals, the other things that are really looking impressive. They're very nice and very tastefully done. I think it's great. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, Pete, would you like to?
Yeah, I when I came in, I've got a letter that I think the rest of us all got a letter where I got ripped pretty soundly from a citizen for proposing a maintenance program for the city of Fort Scott. And in that letter, there's some good points, but there's also some points that are not so good. And I'm going to disregard the letter. I'm not, it's of no concern to me. But I'm really last work session I presented a roadway to maintenance program for the city of Fort Scott, knowing full well that over the past decade we've done virtually zero maintenance work, and you see where we've gotten with that. As Kevin mentioned, we just found a hot pour melter that we didn't even know we had. That's about a $50,000 article with zero return on that. It's hardly been used, and our streets show it. And we just paid a few months ago a $25,000 bill to a contractor for coming in and hot pouring our cracks on National Street. We've got 10 times that many cracks in that need to be worked on, and that pothole patcher just fell in her lap. Somebody's looking out for us. We have a pothole patcher we paid $68,000 And prior to us getting it out this year and used it, it had been used very little. When it was used with the wrong materials. And so there's been very little return of investment on a taxpayer funded $116,000 worth of equipment. We now have that equipment. And what I'm trying to do is, I'm not trying to force anything onto anybody, but I did ask last meeting, the work session, that you guys make the determination, do we want a maintenance program? And that didn't even warrant a position on the agenda this week. So I guess what you've told me is, no, we don't want a maintenance program because we didn't even bring it up. It seems to me like a lot of the important things we don't bring up. We just let it lie. So I'm going to ask some questions. Are we, as a commission, committed to a maintenance program for our streets in the city of Fort Scott? I need to know. If you're not, I'm going to quit working on it. But I've spent 2 years trying to build up a maintenance program for the city of Fort Scott. And, I need to know if you guys are behind me or not.
If you're asking me, yes.
I'm asking everybody.
Yep, I'm behind you on a maintenance program for the streets in the city of Fort Scott.
I think we're all for a maintenance program. At the last meeting, I asked Jesse, he was going to go over there next to the high school. And I said, I'd like to see a road done first before we agreed to anything. Do you remember that, Pete?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know, have you guys taken that over there at all to actually do?
Yeah, we did 9th Street. We patched the holes. We didn't really do like a chip and seal, but we did probably 50-foot section, 50 by 8 feet at Buck Run.
Yeah, I seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then with the rain every day this week. But I mean, I don't. Him saying acting like we're not committed to a maintenance program, to me, I mean, that's basically saying that my guys aren't doing anything. We're busy every day.
Did you go over this maintenance? Did he go over this maintenance program with you?
Yeah, I was here with you guys when.
No, I meant before.
No.
What? I don't want to put you on the spot about a maintenance program, but what we've done, we just talked about Horton Street today. That'd be another good road to go do as a example. Is that right, Pete? We started that a little section. We need to finish that.
Well, we did some a little bitty piece of what we call chip seal, which is proven out to be a great patch. But we did fill potholes. We're getting late in the season, and I think that I looked at the 15-day forecast, and now the next 15 days, I think there's 5 days that we would be able to use the pothole patcher. And so the question is, do we want to use that filling potholes, or do we want to do that for demonstration purposes? I feel that we need to fill potholes. But what I'm asking for is the commitment from the commission that yes, we're going to do this. Now this is going to involve funds, and we have funds, and we have funds coming in with the sales tax issues, and but I'm looking at a $200,000 a year budget to do a patch and repair on 100 blocks. Are we willing to do that? And are we willing to hire the necessary people and dedicated? And we can have such a great addition to our maintenance crew or our public works crew as a dedicated patch and repair, crack filling, and asphalt alleys crew, repairing those. There's there's some equipment that we need if we're going to do this. If we're going to do this program, it's an ongoing program that we do every year. Every year we're going to have potholes. Every year we're going to have the issues that we have today, and they're not going to go away, and they're getting worse and worse and worse every year. So this is not something that we'll do one year and then won't do it again. We do it every year, and but we need equipment to do it with. Equipment such as a pneumatic rubber tired roller. We need an aggregate storage facility. We need a tank, an emulsion storage tank. These are all going to cost money. And what in order to get done, what we need to get done with the crew that we're looking at, and I'm not forcing this on anybody. I think this is not rocket science to do this. But another thing that I'm looking at is if we can get a cooperative agreement with the county whereby we share services, things like chip and seal. The county has chip seal equipment. We have pothole patch equipment. We can share these. Possibly we could share the tank. We could share services. But that's all going to take work. And what we needed to do now is we'll just finish out the year as we are because there's nothing else we can do. But we can make arrangements now for equipment so that we'll be ready to go come spring. And we can get that equipment in, get it in place. A tank, for instance, a 7,000 gallon tank or an 8,000 gallon tank costs about $55,000. And the time frame is 90 to 120 days to get that. So we're looking at December in order for us to have a tank in here in place, ready to go to work next spring, so that we can bounce out of there and we can start patching potholes. And
Pete, and if I could interject real quick on that, I think what a lot of people that's not in that business probably wouldn't understand, just so I can explain it to them. If we have the storage tank, we can have that material because it's quite a stretch to that material. The closest place we can probably get that material is going to be Kansas City, and they can bring it to us in a tanker, and we can have it right here on site and ready to go to where we can work every day rather than have someone.
Are you wanting to chip seal 100 blocks of Fort Scott streets a year?
No, I'm talking about the storage tank for that would be the material also for the.
Are you fine with chip sealing Fort Scott?
Not the whole town.
Are you fine with chip seal? You talking about chip sealing 100 blocks a year?
No, I'm talking about the spot
patching.
Spot patching, chip seal process or patching, and chip seal is a system that I don't know what you got against chip seal.
Chip seal is mainly, if you look across the state, the country, mainly done in county roads and not city roads.
Well, it's done on any asphalt street. We've done it on city streets in years past. But again, that's another thing we can talk about. But if and again, the thing that I'm looking at doing with the maintenance activities is pothole repair, leveling where our streets are bumpy like that. We can level in between the humps, just like we did over on 9th Street. Now we made that considerably smoother ride over there. And but skim patching, alligator crack repairs, crack filling, spot chip sealing, and regrading of the alleys I would include in this. But what we have to do is keep the moisture out of our base. Moisture runs into all these cracks and all these alligator cracks, all these low spots, all the potholes. They fill with water, and that water seeps through and goes down and destroys the base. And each year it gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So that's what I'm trying to do is to more or less just keep what we've got in place.
To touch on that spot, the part that we were talking about, the storage tank, and when you're working back and forth with the city and the county, I believe that that could be something that could be utilized between both parties that would keep this material on hand, and that could be used for not just chip sealing but pothole patch repair, because that's the same material, if I'm correct, that would go in that machine.
Well, there's two different materials it's a different material to use for regular chip sealing, but for spot chip sealing like we do, yes, we use the same material. But yes, right now we have a 250-gallon tank, and if we get going full blast, we'll use 250 gallon every day. So that would mean today we'd use 250 gallon. Tomorrow we couldn't work because our machine's gone to Kansas City, and then the third day we can work, but every other day we can work.
Right.
And you know, and the attempt here is not to fix anything; it's to bring our streets up to a reasonable PCI, to make them drivable, get rid of the potholes, get rid of the spots that are going to be potholes if we don't fix them, and just improve the situation. We haven't improved anything other than just spots in the city of Fort Scott in the past decade. And what I'm trying to do is put a plan in motion. I think we've got the man here that can make it happen for us. I know he needs a little guidance, and he needs equipment. He needs things to make it happen. But unless this commission is behind it, it ain't going to happen. So that's my question. Are we going to commit to a maintenance program for our streets in the city of Fort Scott? And I know you've answered yes. And Randy, I'd like your answer.
Pete, it's the same answer I gave you last time, which you didn't like, and that is yes. I am certainly for a program to repair, rehab, maintain our streets, but I would also like to see some other details hung on the vision that you have. I'd like Susan's input in terms of the economics of it and how it's going to impact us. I'd like for the engineers to evaluate it and the materials you're going to use. And I'm quite frankly, we wandered quite a bit and still in my mind are wondering about what exactly is going to be used where. And I would like more details or understanding from my part. I think you may have it, but I don't. And so, you know, so it's one thing for me to say, yes, I certainly appreciate the effort you put in. I certainly want to have a street program that moves forward, but I would like to hear some more information about it in terms of the things I just mentioned to you: engineer input, personnel input, financial input, and see what we're really talking about as we move. Because you're not talking about, you know, just fixing a couple of potholes this year. You're talking about year after year after year after year, and I think I need more details to understand the sustainability of it and what we're doing. So, if that's yeah, I know you thought I wanted to delay things. I don't consider that a delay. I consider that being sure we've got our plan, got our ducks in a row.
I want to break in. I really appreciate your confidence, Randy, and your you know, I've only been doing this for about the last 40 years. And I know it works. I know how it works. I know what it costs. And but here again, you can you can do all the studies you want to, but that doesn't get our streets fixed. I can fix the streets with this program.
Well, and you read the letter, and the problem is that also the community apparently wants more details or more understanding of your plan, and that's all I meant. And I'm sorry that angers you. I'm sorry that you think that's wrong, but that's the way I operate.
Okay.
And I've operated that way forever. So you asked me for my answer. That's my answer.
Okay. Thank you.
And Pete, I'm for that. I thought that's where we should have been on Cooper Street.
I'm sorry.
Street maintenance should be, I think, 70% of our. I think we should have done that before we tore up Cooper Street and had $1 million project. So I'm with you on street maintenance. I mean, I think we need to do crack sealing, crack filling, pothole patching, all that. We need a program each year. Jesse, You know, that's something I'm hoping you're doing anyways. Next year, these are the streets we need to, seal. Like you said, Country Club, Horton, Margrave. We have concrete work that needs done on Margrave. I don't agree with the pothole patching over there, but I agree with putting in concrete and bricks. I'm kind of up in the air about.
Well,
but them are all things that can be discussed.
Again, the pothole patcher on the concrete is a temporary thing. It's to
Right.
stop
Right.
what's happening over there now. It's not going to fix it. It's going
Right.
to stop
Well,
the breaking down of those joints.
Yeah, and you just asked me my thoughts, and so I'm just giving you my thoughts.
Okay.
I don't know what that looks like I don't know what it looks like on brick. I don't know. And for me,
It looks just like asphalt and bricks.
And like we talked about last time, just as such as hogging it in and not squaring it off, stuff like that. Just all things going through my head. But for next year's budget, we really need to pick out some roads that need.
That's all part of the program.
Yes.
Is to pick out those roads.
Yes.
And there's where we can get the street advisory people involved with this too. But the point is, we need to start somewhere.
Right.
And
Well, I would love to sit down with you next week before the meeting and go over my concerns with you. I mean, I value your knowledge and everything. There's just questions I have. But, if not,
well, that's fine. I've tried to answer questions here, and
okay. That's fine. Anything else?
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page, wanting streets better, and I think that we're in a good spot because we're discussing it. I know that temperatures kind of flare around here sometimes when we're talking about it, but at least we're to the point now that possibly we weren't in the past as far as a commission discussing, hey, we have a problem and we need to address this problem. So we're coming up with equipment. We've been purchasing equipment for Public Works, and I think we're all on the same page. I believe that whatever they're going to need to get this situation handled, we're going to be there for them to get the equipment.
Well, the thing again, we've got a quote now, and I think I sent that to. Did I send that to you, Josh? I sent it to Mark, and I sent it to the quote. Did Jesse quote? That quote's good for 14 days, and that's the way equipment is today. Anything that has steel in it is not guaranteed over the past 14 days. So, I asked for this some time ago, and we get no answer, and we just sit here and we don't.
If we're going to purchase something, then we would have to go out for the bid process. So I think that and my input would be, just like with the street plan that you presented months ago, Pete, I don't think that anybody sitting here disagrees that we need action and we need to move forward, which we have been making steps forward. Have they always been the best steps? No. However, our biggest problem that I see is the fact that we tend to not involve staff. And as a commission, we ask, make this decision 100%, and we all need to be behind it. And when we don't involve staff, when we don't involve the finance, and we don't involve, all of our partners, and as you mentioned, the street advisory group, this is a
and I will
there's multiple facets that need to be addressed before.
Well, and I will say to Pete's defense is that he did ask last week, and I'll apologize for that, Pete, not have it on the agenda, because to talk about this, we do have to put on the agenda to discuss it. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't here.
Yeah, so I will say that, Pete. It's not something I want to adopt right away, but it's something I want to start discussing every meeting. So.
Should we put it on the agenda for next meeting?
Well, it's definitely something we need to look at. So, yeah.
Susan?
Yep.
There has been 2 presentations by staff, and a lot of times it's been because of funding, that we haven't been able to have a maintenance program and a full-blown repair replacement type program. But with the money coming in from the sales tax, that we'll be able to see the effect of that in 2022. Right now we can't because the money's not coming in. However, there's been 2 different presentations where we have shown that we have $200,000 for maintenance program And then we have our capital improvements program is what we would call it. But it's kind of waiting till those funds get here. So, and I have two different times where we have come to the commission and said, this is what staff. Now, Jesse's not up to date on this because he's pretty new. So we can get together and we can talk about what that looks like. And it talks about striping and signals and all those different things. And we've got it broken down by category. So that's already been prepared by staff. We just need to implement it. So that, if that helps the conversation any. Now, the type of surface that we put down, that's a different conversation.
What was prepared by staff? Can you bring that back?
Yes, I
or
will.
just email it to us.
Yep, I can email it to you.
Thank you, Susan.
Hey, before we quit, I'm sorry. Finish this conversation, but it just struck me if we're having another meeting this week, I want to know about it.
Pete, I don't know if those answered your questions or anything. I don't know.
Well, yes, at least we're talking about it,
Right.
And which was, what I asked for last week was conversation and talking about it. But no one called me, no one talked to me, no one said a word, and it wasn't even on the agenda. So I have to bring it up again. I shouldn't have to. We should be as a body. We should. And let me tell you, it is the responsibility of this commission to make policy. Is that right? Isn't that right, Bob?
Yes, that's really your own.
Yeah, we make policy, and I got chastised for making policy. And I don't make policy by myself. That's why I'm here talking to you guys. But that's our responsibility, is to make policy, and we get chastised for not including the staff. Well, okay, we've included the staff. I've included the staff, and it's just amazing how little we get done because we have to talk about it.
Well, and I believe, we get letters. This isn't the first letter we've got. And again, it all goes back to, I've been in business now for a long time, and you're not going to make everybody happy. And so if the public want to send a letter, if they want to come to that podium, they're more than welcome to.
Yes, I agree.
So.
All right. Do we have a meeting Thursday? Yes, 6 p.m. Thursday.
What's our meeting?
Budget. I think
It's about the 3rd Street stop sign.
Is it about? Okay.
Is that what it's about, Randy? I thought it was. No?
Does anyone have anything? Bob, do you have anything? All right. Motion. I'll make the motion.
Diane, welcome back.
Yes.
Appreciate you. We missed you. I did anyway. The rest of them said that they couldn't tell the difference.
Are you bad mouthing Rachel? She's right there.
I know.
Who? Who?
All right. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Pete Allen.
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Lindsey Watts.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes.